Welcome everyone to Lunch with LeAnn. Today is Wednesday, February 24th. I almost said December 24th, 2021. And if this is your first time joining Lunch with LeAnn, this is a weekly program that is hosted by Link, a Center for Independent Living in Southwest Idaho. Our guests on Lunch with LeAnn join us every Wednesday to share fun conversation that often and sometimes revolves around food, what access and independent living means to them, and most importantly, share resources that may help you or someone you know and love live the independent life of their choosing in their community. And also, if this is the first time you're joining us, you're in for a special treat. We are celebrating someone who has a long, impressive history here in our great state, and someone who I have the honor of awarding the Consortium for Idahoans with Disability, also known as SID, 2021 Marilyn Sword Award to Jim Baugh on our show today. So welcome, Jim. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And the Marilyn Sword Award is presented to someone in recognition of outstanding advocacy and community service. And what a spot on description for the lifetime of work of service you have given your fellow Idahoans. So we're very excited to have you here today, Jim. And I wanted to also let everyone know that Jen Grushdale has joined us today, and she is monitoring the Facebook comments. So if you have any fun memories of Jim you might want to share in the comments, if you have something that, some appreciation, you're welcome to share that in the comments. If you have a question for some of the really impressive work that we have had the opportunity to be beneficiaries of for Jim's work, go ahead and put those in the comments. We're going to have a conversation, if you will. And this is one of those really fun things that technology has brought us. So Jim, I had this morning an opportunity to talk with two individuals who have known you for quite some time, and they have quite a lot of stories on you. We streamed part of it on Facebook. Part of it I got to just chat with Marilyn Sword, who nominated you, and Kelly Buckland as well, around their experiences. So in honor of that conversation, my lunch today is coffee, because Kelly Buckland told me that all of those times that you guys had to sit in, between legislative sessions, between, strategizing about who you're going to connect with to get our messages to the legislatures on the behalf of Idahoans, that you had to do it over coffee. A lot.
Kelly was pretty much never without a cup of coffee.
So I brought some coffee. So what, and they shared a couple of those memories. What are some of your fond memories of doing advocacy work?
Well, I think that when I really got hooked and knew I was going to do this for life was actually when I was representing a 6-year-old boy who was deaf, who lived in St. Mary's, Idaho. And it was the very first special education hearing in Idaho ever. And the school district basically, since their interpreter had moved away, they decided that his only option was to leave his home at the age of 6 and go to the state school for the deaf and blind. And he and his parents didn't like that particular prospect. And so in the middle of the summer, in a non-air conditioned room with like little first grader seats, we were sitting down on these little things with our knees up next to our face. We went through a full day of putting on the evidence and then following up with briefs and arguments. And the outcome from that hearing was an interdistrict consortium for deaf education up in northern Idaho. But But what I remember about it all was just basically everybody, sitting there in suit jackets in sweltering heat with sweat dripping down um, in a first grade classroom in these little tiny chairs. And I was pretty much hooked from that point on. That was basically, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And that's kind of one of my very best memories. Um, but, I have a whole lot of them. And working with Kelly and Marilyn was an indescribable experience. We were all for one and one for all. And we thought the same way. We could finish each other's sentences. We each instantly knew what we had to offer for any particular thing we were going to do. And it was labor of love.
A labor of love. And something that has come into mind when I've heard all of these great stories too has been, one thing that I center in my life is that differences are advantages and that people need one another. And when I'm hearing you and Marilyn and Kelly talk about that time together, I think how you each celebrated each other's differences to lift up the whole movement of disability civil rights. So I just want to thank you for that example. It sounds like that. Is that an accurate description of?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, I had a couple of comments come in, and while we have Scott who has joined us today, Scott Hoover. Welcome, Scott. And he's here to add some comments live. But one thing we find in our work is that when we're all really busy doing the work, sometimes it's hard to gather. And so what we have had an opportunity to do this time is gather some great comments from folks. And I just wanted to read a few of them to you, Jim. And I'm also excited to say that we will be packaging some things together for you that will summarize all these notes, but the notes for the viewers' purposes, the notes that came in on Jim, I have always respected Jim by reputation, but getting to hear people's stories. This one, I think, from Julie Fodder was a good one. The most important lessons I've learned from you include these things, Jim. 1, be humble always. 2, speak when you are able, 2, speak when you know what you are talking about. 3, be gentle with the words that you use and calmness as a way of gentling others. And 4, fury gets you nowhere. And those are some pretty good lessons. So that's something that someone has learned from you, Jim. Someone else, Liz Woodruff, who you and I know well. I've known her since we were in high school and in debate together. And so Liz says, Jim is an amazing advocate, expert, and mentor, quietly helping lead the way of Medicaid expansion in Idaho, supporting Idahoans with disabilities at every turn, and providing the kind of expert testimony on technical legal issues that simply takes your breath away. And we have another nice accolade for you from Dana Ard. Jim, I have known you, we have known each other since the mid-70s. You have been a tremendous advocate for all persons with disabilities and have been personally helpful to me on many occasions. I wish you the best in your retirement and future plans. Congratulations on the award, Dana Ard. And I think, and those are echoed through countless numbers of messages we've got, Jim. And I know as a humble person that I've seen you as that, accolades aren't always what we like, but we're going to have Scott maybe share a few words of appreciation for your great work. So Scott, do you have anything to share with Jim and our viewers today?
I appreciate the opportunity. That's for sure. Thank you, LeAnn. Absolutely. Jim, you are by far one of the finest people I've ever had the opportunity of knowing, first of all, and then working for, second. As a former employee at Disability Rights Idaho, I can say that it gave me great pleasure to, whenever you were in the office, to know that you always had an open door policy, Your door was hardly ever closed except for very confidential type of things. And knowing that I could come to you in a moment's notice and say, hey, what about this? How do I approach this? What do you think of this? That type of access to you made my job that much more easy to do. And we all know how difficult defending the rights of people with disabilities can be and how intricate it can be. And Jim, you by far were the easiest person to work with in that regard. And just knowing your expertise was there literally on the other side of the wall made my novice approach to the industry of defending people with disabilities that much more sane, to say the least. You deserve any and all awards you will get for the rest of your life, as far as I'm concerned. You have embraced the world of disabilities with great candor and great fortitude and intelligence. And I mean, I can't, the list of words goes on and on. Between representing anybody in Idaho to the intricacies of your own family, you definitely by far are an example and can be somebody very difficult to replace in the industry because of your expertise. And I hope you carry that banner proudly through the rest of your life, because really you've influenced my life. I can't seem to get out of the world of disabilities because it's just a part of who you become. Once you're in this world, you understand the need for and the greater sacrifice that you make to make people's lives better. So thank you, Jim, from the bottom of my heart for the years of service I was able to give at Disability Rights Idaho under your tutelage and your expert tutelage. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And so before I do the official award presentation that will be virtual in its award giving, Jen, do you have any comments, or do we have any comments from the Facebook before I?
We have one, and it is from Dana Gover, and she simply says, congratulations, Jim.
Yeah. Awesome. So, and Jen, I know you've worked with Jim. Your experience as Jim is meaningful, I think, as well, with some of the work that you are now experiencing. We were just talking about. So I don't want to take that from you, but would you mind just highlighting that a little bit? Because I think part of the legacy is, Jim, you do the work during the time it's needed, and then we down the pike get to reap the rewards of that. And I think Jen has a great example of some of the impact of your work.
Yes, so I was part of the tail end of the work that was done by Sid and by Jim, Marilyn, and Kelly Buckland, first and foremost, when it came to changing Idaho law to protect parents who have disabilities and their rights to have children and keep their children and all that is involved, whether it's, retaining custody or adopting. And I personally have also benefited because I am now a parent of a 14-year-old child, and both my husband and I do have significant, obvious disabilities. And so I will be forever grateful knowing that I have that protection through the state as a parent.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for sharing that. So Jim, I'm going to pop up on the screen an image. I'm going to describe the image before I pop it up because once I pop it up, we may not be able to see Sierra, our sign language interpreter. So I'll describe it and show you the award. What I'm about to show on my screen is an award that is clear and sparkly, and I positioned it so that it would shine with these sparkles. So that is not a glare from my terrible photography. I positioned it in this one beam of sunlight I had in my office today so that you could see it sparkle. So there's reflections from the clearness around it. It reads Consortium for Idahoans with Disabilities, SID, Marilyn Sword Award, presented to Jim Baugh in recognition of outstanding advocacy, community service, for 2021 is the recognition date. So Jim, I'm going to pop that up so that all of our viewers can see it. And you as well, since you have not seen it. So there is the big reveal. And Jim, on behalf, this is such a huge honor for me because I'm currently the newest SID board member, but there are more to come, new ones to come. But in my studying of becoming a educated board member, I see your signature on the bylaws and all of the things. And so again, another example of a place that you have created for me personally, as someone who, like Scott said, I love it. Once you're in this work, you just can't not be in it. That was perfect. And I think you have created such a space for those of us who are coming behind, and it's an honor and a privilege. And, you know, I may not spend a lot of time with you personally, Jim, but I feel closer to you after a month of what I would say studying the legacy of Jim Baugh. And so we will be sharing with you these great comments, these amazing words, and we hope that you know that you have made our world a much better place and more accessible. And while we're not in the rotunda to celebrate you, more people were able to celebrate you with this manner. So congratulations, Jim. If you have any closing remarks, I yield the stage to you.
Well, you know, I just want to say my introduction to the world of disabilities came when I was 9 years old and my younger brother was born with Down syndrome. This was, of course, many years before there was an IDEA, many years before there was an Americans with Disabilities Act. There wasn't even a Section 504. What happened to people with disabilities had nothing to do with what they wanted or needed. It was all about what everybody else did. And I recognized that. So I actually started doing this work on a professional basis about a year after I got out of law school. I became a VISTA volunteer. I don't know if people remember VISTA. It's still around, but it's not what it used to be. As a VISTA volunteer, I got in on the ground floor of what Congress had just created called the Protection and Advocacy System, which eventually became Disability Rights Idaho. But, you know, there were no laws back then. I mean, when you talked about disability law, they were talking about Social Security benefits. That was it. Those early cases, it was, you know, I was perpetually arguing the 14th Amendment and constitutional rights, and because I didn't have any statutory rights to work with. But it was so intoxicating to be on the ground floor of a human rights movement that I kept re-upping on my VISTA volunteer. Usually you do it for a year. I re-upped for almost 4 years, you know, before I finally had a paid position. But like Scott said, you know, you can't do it a little bit and then say, okay, well, that was great. Now I'm going to go off and, I don't know, practice personal injury law or something like that, you know? So, so that's my whole career has been disability rights advocacy. And so I'm really very honored that people have seen fit to give me this recognition. But, you know, it's almost like I didn't have a choice.
Wow. I agree.
Well, I think you made the choice when you kept showing up, because I know a lot of people who probably have had opportunity and made different choices. So I will say on behalf of everyone, I'm appreciative of your comments, and also I am grateful that the choice you did make was to make the world a better place. So,
So
and
I do have
yeah,
just two things to say, little words of wisdom that I've learned. You know, first of all, my name's associated with a lot of stuff, but nobody ever accomplished anything in public policy or in disability rights advocacy or any of those things by themselves. Everything that ever got done because of the work of many people. So, and the other thing is, one of the first days when I was down at the Capitol, trying to figure out what doing public policy advocacy was all about, a very well-known and successful lobbyist named Bill Roden sort of took me aside and said, here's the two things you need to know. There are no permanent friends and there are no permanent enemies. And then he said, the second thing you need to know is, if you want to get anything done in public policy, it's very important that you don't care who gets the credit. Mm-hmm. And I've stuck with those two principles that Bill Roden disclosed to me throughout the whole time that I did public policy work, and they have served me very well.
and I appreciate you passing those on, because those are going to be a reflection for me today and many days to come. That was great. Thanks, Jim. Well, as we sign off, I do want to let people know we are celebrating all day. So we will be sharing more positive impacts of Jim's legacy through some posts on social media. We will have a link that will be prepared in a week or so that we will memorialize this on our Facebook page. So the Consortium for Idahoans with Disabilities Facebook page and their website. And if any of you would like to send Jim some accolades or appreciation, you can do that. So they'll be included in the package to Jim directly, if you have his contact information, of course. But we will, if you'd like to put it to info@linkidaho.org. We are compiling those and going to put them on behalf of SID. So Jim, thank you so much for your years and years of humble service, and we cheers to you today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.